your music's featured on a Super Bowl commercial. That's 6 figs for that one spot of 30 seconds. And it beats the heck out of streaming. So
how do I even get started?
The same song could get placed over and over and over again. 4 figures is the minimum.
What's like the most underrated type of sync?
Mobile games are like 40% of the market and people don't realize it. I'll probably get shot for saying this.
Damn, that's game.
You need to be a specialist. If you have on a sync track, normally add another 0 to the price.
Oh, interesting.
He got very underpaid for it.
Wait, is it the jingle? The nature of this episode is very simple. Sync placements. Do you want your music in TV shows, movies, video games, the freaking Super Bowl? Do you want to get paid 4, 5, maybe 6 figures upfront, non-recoupable with back end? We're super excited about Sync because it's an option that's available to an artist of any size. Sync is beautiful because you don't have to be a Drake, Beyonce level artist to make some serious cash. On today's episode, we sat down with sync expert xJ-Will, who has a 2,000 plus deep sync catalog, including everyone from Taco Bell to NASA. He's since become an educator in the space, sharing the sauce with the public, and he brought all the sauce with him on today's episode. Let's get it started.
Obviously, I was like, yo, xJ-Will, and you were like, yo, bro, it's just J-Will, the X is silent. Was that a joke? Were you joking? Were you?
I'm so serious.
So you,
It's not xJ-Will.
I don't mind. It's spelled xJ-Will, but the X is silent just because of like branding purposes. So like, for instance, did I tell you the joke? So like, what happened?
I thought that was the joke.
No, I'm being for real, because like one of my students, I remember way back in the day when I was still in college, I was teaching lessons, and I had a French student, and her last name was Camo, and there was an X at the end. I was like, where is it? She was like, it's silent. I'm like, so you can just make up any silent letter, it's fine. And she was like, yeah. And so that was the day I was like, you know what? I'm gonna brand my name this way, just to tease her. And she I was playing around, but I was serious because there's other J-Wills in like media. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, yeah, let's just put an X in front of it. And now it looks different. It actually kind of looks cool in my opinion.
It does. So, no, it's kind of gamer-esque.
Bro. Like, everyone who meets you for the first time has to call you xJ-Will, right?
Oh yeah, they do.
Okay, cool. All right.
Will, like some people think my name is Will.
Okay, well, yeah,
hilarious too.
I think I actually said Will as well. I was like, do you like going by xJ-Will or Will? And you're like, well, it's actually Josh.
You know, it says Joshua Williams in his bio if you read it for 2 seconds.
You know, I usually like to pride myself on my research, but I guess I fell a little bit short.
Oh no, you just fell for the okie doke. That's okay.
Yeah, for sure. But no, so we got xJ-Will on the podcast.
Okay.
No, man, this one.
After all that.
Yeah, after all that.
He still says it.
I'm just going to call you xJ-Will. No, man, this is a really important topic for our audience, right? I think we've damn near covered. I mean, covered a lot. I don't want to say we've covered it all besides this, but like we've covered a wide range of topics. But sync licensing, I was kind of talking with you before this, has always been kind of mentioned like in passing.
Yeah, I heard that's good.
Yeah,
I heard we should do that.
Heard you can make money from it. Yeah. Like, you know, we've talked about it's a royalty stream, right? But we've never really like dove into the nuts and bolts of like the sync licensing world. So I'm really excited to get you on. I think our audience is going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot. So just to set the stage, like, what's your best definition of sync, right? I just want to make sure everyone because they might not even know what it is, right? So like, how do we even just define what sync licensing is?
So it's short for synchronize.
Yeah. So essentially,
let's start there.
This is going to be so much fun. So like,
buckle
when it comes to sync licensing, like the best way I can describe it is that you, the licensee, is giving permission to a film production studio, a director, a game developer. You're giving these people that make visual media permission to synchronize, like you said, your music behind motion picture. Now, motion picture can be anything, like we were saying, video games, commercials, movies, instructional videos, all kinds of stuff, video podcasts.
Yeah.
So like you have to have a license for this stuff because it's intellectual property. So like, as long as you're kind of thinking of it that way, the other way I like to describe it is kind of with a metaphor of if you're going out of town, let's say I'm going to Atlanta for like, I don't know, a party, because there's always a party in Atlanta. What you do normally, you have to have a car to get around pretty much, right?
Yes.
So it's just like you're the film director and you're renting a car. just because you put money down on that car does not mean you own it, right? You can't just keep it. So you have to give it back. And let's say you have to stay an extra day, maybe because of
the hangover.
Yeah.
From the party.
Other activities have led to maybe having the party last a little longer.
The cocaine.
What happens, normally you have to call and be like, hey, I need to use this for another day. That's exactly how it works in sync too, because you're agreeing to license it for an extended amount of time. And after that time period is up, it's like, yo, you got to pay up again, because either maybe someone else wants to use it and it's under exclusive deal, or like, it's just past the term, so we got to renegotiate. So that's what I really like about it, is that the same song could get placed over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. So I think everyone kind of thinks of movie and TV as like the two biggest, most popular forms of sync. But you listed off a few others. What's like the most underrated like type of sync, or like the media that syncs music that we average, Joes might not think of when we think of sync?
I'll tell you, there's probably like two of them.
Yeah.
The first one's mobile games, because people think video games, but like mobile games is like 40% of the market and people don't realize it. Mobile games and esports. And then the other one is educational videos. Like, and I'll tell you the story because like it was wild to me. One of my homies placed a piece of music in an educational like orientation video for a college, but it was a college. So in Missouri, we have like it's University of Missouri, and then they have them in different cities: Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbia, Mizzou. You know what I'm saying? So like what happened was, because it was under that branch or umbrella, he licensed that song under the orientation video, and they used it for each one of those venues. And because it was being published, he got a royalty for it for each one. So he got paid like 4 or 5 times for the same song in the same video, but because it was being shown at different times, he was able to get that 5x placement, which was like crazy.
Damn.
Yeah, it kind of sucks for the college.
Hey, man.
Well, I mean, it's college got money for that kind of stuff. You know, that's part of the budget.
Sure. So what's your background that led to you wanting to really focus on sync licensing, right? Not only for your own production career, but also as like an educator, content creator in the space. Like, what led you to this?
Yeah, because kids don't, grow up being like, I want to be a sync licensing expert.
Like, write music and never know who did no one know where I am. Actually, I'll try to make this story as short as possible, but like, what had happened was
every good story starts like that.
And I wanted to be a rock star.
Right, yeah. So like every musician that starts, like they get an instrument. I started playing trumpet at like 11, and that's actually kind of probably late for kids that want to get into music. And so like I went through theory, learned jazz studies, and did all this kind of stuff. Played in orchestra when I was in high school, and eventually I went to college for jazz studies, performance degree. But I didn't realize that like no one asks for that when they hire you for a gig or whatever. And so like halfway through, or no, I was out of school, and so I was doing gigs at night and like being a kid and teaching during the daytime. And I was like, yo, I'm 26 at this time, and like it's time to get off my parents' health insurance. And so like bills start packing up, and I'm just like, all right, how are we going to do this? Because like $100 gigs every weekend are not going to really I'm not going to be able to be comfortable. And so I started, and I was managing and touring a band at that moment in time. And like everyone, especially in the mid-20s, everybody's kind of pivoting. Either people's getting kids, getting married and stuff. So I didn't know if we were going to be able to still make or keep the band together. So that's when I actually got into production. So like from there, I tried to sell beats to rappers and all that kind of stuff. But I live in the Midwest, like outside Tech 9.
There's
or
Tech
Nelly,
9.
Like I'm not going to really be able to, there's not a lot of people investing in their marketing or just their craft as a musician or an artist anyway. You know what I'm saying? Normally, if they were, they're leaving KC probably as soon as possible. So because of that, I was like, yo, I'm not making what I want to make with learning how to do all this stuff with production. And I feel like my music's expensive, or at least to me, it sounds expensive at the time. And so my wife was just like, why don't you just like make music for like TV shows and commercials? And at first I was like, that's whack. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm trying to be an artiste. And like, it just made no sense to me. But I started thinking about like, yo, when musicians are done touring, like they're still making money. How is this possible? And it's the publishing game. So the best way to get publishing is from performance royalties. When it's on TV, when your music's featured on a Super Bowl commercial, that's 6 figs for that one spot of 30 seconds. And it beats the heck out of streaming. So I did my first, I took like 18 months to kind of figure out how to do it. And I got into a music library and I kept sending them stuff. And I don't know why they accepted me, because I definitely didn't know what I was doing. But eventually, after like song number 218, I got a placement. It was for a Taco Bell commercial for like 5 figures.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo.
Bro, he's never gonna forget the number 218. No. You know how clearly he specified how many songs he had to fucking make and send to this sync library.
He's been getting Baja Blast slushies ever since.
He pulls up to any Taco Bell and they're like, yo, Will.
Everything on the menu, bro. Like,
they gave him the gold card. It's fire.
Yeah.
So TLDR, though, your wife told you to maybe try it.
Yeah, it was totally her idea, because I was just like, man, I don't know what I'm doing.
Bro.
Like, this is terrible. And we were newly married too, bro. Like, there was no reason for her to be like, I don't know what he's doing. It's been 2.5 years. He still ain't figured it out. We're gonna have to do something. We were living in a very we were living downtown, and so like rent was super cheap, and we were just I was in the trenches, bro, trying to figure out how to do it, and eventually it worked out. So
hell yeah, man,
she's the one.
I love that. I love that story for so many reasons. So all right, obviously you've kind of put in the work over the years, right? Like from that time when you decided to like give it a shot to try and figure out how to get your music into TV, film, etc. You've obviously put in the work to now help like us in our community figure out like what's the actual best way to go about this? Because like I'm sure you had so many like lessons learned and
trial and error
out the ass, right? So if I'm a musician, right, and I decide just like you did, you know, a number of years ago that I want to get my music synced in film, TV, etc. Like what is the first step? How do I even get started?
Okay, so first thing you really definitely need to do is make sure you're tied to a PRO of some sort, because that's how you get your back end royalties.
Okay.
So that first figure with the Taco Bell ad, let's say, was $10,000. That's upfront. That's not after it plays on television and then you rack up your back end royalties. You see what I'm saying? So it's very important to make sure that your music is registered. Normally, and we'll get to the other way you can do it, but like make sure that's done first. Second, you need to understand where your music fits in the market. So like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, my music can work for TV and film just because like it doesn't sound bad. But like it needs to be built for it, and B, I mean, do you really know where your music can fit on television? Because most producers, they're like, no man, I'm grinding. Like they don't watch a lot of TV. And so it's really important to understand what the market actually wants at that given time. Like, so for instance, March Madness comes up. What kind of music is normally played? Marching band stuff. You got a lot of sports or rock-based hip-hop, like those kinds of things seasonally are really important to pay attention to, because if you don't know where your music's going to be placed, then how do you know what to make in the first place? You know what I'm saying? So like understanding what your niche is really important. After that, so that's step one, get registered with a PRO. Step two, understand where your music can actually fit. There's a couple websites that you can use to like figure that out. Like there's one called TuneFind, and essentially what it does is like after an episode of television airs, like for instance, The Recruit just came back on Netflix. After the first episode, you can go on this website and it'll tell you everything that they used on that episode, and it does it per episode for like a bunch of different TV shows, ads, and I think they're getting into like video games and stuff too. But like doing that research to kind of understand, okay, like this show uses the style that I make, whether that be like trap or some really cool dark indie pop or something like that. So now you know where the TV shows or networks that are using your music. Now it's time to make an EP. Back when I first started, you needed to make like 12 songs. Now it's like, don't nobody got time to listen to 12 songs. So like make 4 songs. And I always tell people, my students, like, if someone put a gun to you and was like, I need you to make the coolest song ever, like, because a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, I can make all kinds of different stuff. You need to be a specialist, because that's what people like, especially if you're a musician. Like, of course, yeah, you can make, as long as there's Western harmony, normally, like you can make a bunch of different genres, but like, what's the one you're really good at? Because that's the one they'll accept you for. It's kind of like dating. You don't want to show up with like holes in your shoes or anything crazy like that. You want to put your best foot forward. So like make an EP of like 4 like bangers. Make sure they're built for sync, meaning they have short intros, stinger endings. There's a couple other things to make sure that the arrangement's built for like utility purposes. For like music editors and supervisors and stuff like that.
I'm curious on that note. Is it important that the music be out? Does it need to? No, is there an advantage to that?
As long as you own the music, that's more valuable.
Okay.
So like a lot of people, they normally are held up and they won't pitch because they're like, either they want it to stay valuable because it's like you never heard this before. I'm giving this to you. Or they go on the other side where like, oh man, I don't have any new music because like all my stuff's released already. Just as long as you own it, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you will find briefs where they're like, we need something fresh, but like as long as you have it, then you have an opportunity to land it, especially if it sounds great.
Because these music supervisors aren't really concerned with the song being poppin'. Like it just needs to accentuate the scene.
If the budget allows for it, sometimes music supervisors or directors will ask the supervisor to find something that's like fresh. Okay. And that's normally what they say, fresh. But when it comes to the scene, yeah, as long as it's, and I always like to tell people this, as long as your music is helping tell a story or sell a product, it can be used in sync, like period. So like genre doesn't really matter as often. It's more about like, how does this make you feel when I'm seeing whether it be a watch ad or a Nike commercial? Like what does it make you feel? Because if it helps them to sell that product, obviously that music's going to be more important. Like sonic brand is a huge thing. Like if you hear the Taco Bell ding, like you know exactly, you don't even have to watch the commercial to know what it is, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
yeah,
I feel like he's just so casually, I feel like he's so casually like breezed over the like few things that maybe make your music built for sync. Now, once again, you mentioned that if a director or a music supervisor is looking for something fresh, then they might be looking for a more, you know, just current popular song, right?
Yeah.
But outside of that exception, it sounds like there might be a little bit more of a general rule of thumb when it comes to how the music should actually be like structured. You know, what are the elements of a sync ready song when it comes to the music? So you said short intro, you know what I mean? Like just kind of give us the fundamentals.
I'll give you some games. So like short intros, stinger endings, that's like, they sound cheesy, but they're definitive. Like most people like fade out of their music sometimes, a lot of, especially in pop. But if you give a distinct ending that's good for music for TV and film, because if they're changing the scene, like let's say you're watching a teenage drama and like this kid's, I don't know, like Euphoria style, like someone's ODing on drugs or something. It's super dramatic. You have this long string line or something like that, and you go to a party afterwards, like, but there's a fade out of that music still. Like it feels weird, right? So like scenes change very quickly. So you have to make sure that the music ends on a dime. So that's really important to do. On top of that, I'm trying to think.
They can also just fade out the song themselves. Like anyone can add.
Let them do it. Yeah, exactly. Like
if they wanted
it sounds
that.
cheesy, but like at the same time, like it don't matter.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I've noticed, so after I got that first placement, I tried to reverse engineer, like why did they pick this song and how can I make more of them, right? And so like over the past few years, I've realized that there's like 4 things, and we already talked about one, which is arrangement. Like you have to make sure that stuff is moving quickly. Every 4 to 8 bars, there's something changing in your arrangement, whether that be like adding a synth, taking one away, taking away the hi-hat, leaving the bass and drums just for a section or two, like giving variety instead. So like here's the game.
I think every 4 bars. I think 8 bars of the same is too much in 2025.
Yeah, with short attention spans.
Yeah,
and
man.
like with a commercial, like 15 seconds, that's 8 bars by itself.
Right.
So like you gotta.
That's like an eternity for these fucking Gen Zers, bro. That's my old head talking.
I'm right there with you, bro. Yeah. But like with arrangement, like you have to make sure that stuff is continuously changing. So because if you pitch a song that only has like a verse and a chorus, that's 2 different moments, right? But if I pitch a song, I'm gonna have a different intro. Both verses are gonna sound different. That's 3 different options for them to use, right? 2 choruses are gonna sound different. I'm gonna add a bridge, and I'm also gonna add a stinger ending. That's 8 or 9 different options in one song. So when I send an EP out, it's 4 times 9 instead of like 4 songs, or like maybe 35 different options. You know what I'm saying?
We just got a clip.
So like,
Wow.
yeah, clip that. Cause like that's essentially because there, and I'll tell you one thing, man, like, and this goes back to what we were talking about. Like, it doesn't matter how old the music is. An artist and a friend of mine, her name's Prima. We just got a Dove commercial for like a couple $1,000s, and it was from something we made like 3 years ago that we genuinely forgot about. And like this always like makes me kind of mad because it's older music, and like if you're continuously making music, I get upset because I'm like, y'all chose that. Like, we had all this other cool stuff that we're making now, and this is what you like. What's going on here? So it just gives you more perspective about like how subjective music is, and even if someone else might not like it, someone else will.
And that's a common theme of listeners too. Like artists don't understand what their best song is going to be, and it's hard for them to lean into that. But I think you're so close to the music, and you have your own personal opinions that you don't end up, reacting appropriately.
I mean, yeah, these people that are picking the music for these commercials and for these movies and TV shows, they are just listeners.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they are just people that like, yeah, this is their job and they're fucking good at it typically, especially the ones that are like working on, the biggest productions that exist. But like at the end of the day, you might ask two highly qualified music supervisors, like, which song would you pick for this scene? And they might have two different opinions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so subjective. Damn, that's game.
I think it's a numbers game at that point, right?
Yeah.
It's just putting up shots.
So that was the thing. That's why I always tell people, like, it took me 200 songs to get one.
Yeah.
So now I have a catalog of like over 2,000, and I have different, and we'll get to the next step. We'll have to make some type of visual or something for this one. Like, that's why you have to have a lot of different things out there. So like it's all being pitched at the same time. You know what I'm saying? That's how you can start getting recurring revenue coming in.
So let's talk about just like the process for a song landing in the lap of a music supervisor, right? So how does, xJ-Will, God, I just want to say xJ-Will.
Do it.
xJ-Will. Let's say like
he's our guest.
I'll call you whatever the fuck I want to call you. We just start calling our guests by whatever name we choose.
So Sam, talk to us, Sam.
Yeah, I don't like xJ-Will either. Sam sounds right. Okay, Sam. So, what are the different ways that a song can be on the radar of a music supervisor?
Okay, so to me, there's like 3 different opportunities.
I hate to interrupt this episode, but guys, I got one thing on the mind right now, and it's data. I can't stop thinking about it. All the artists in 2024 are winning because of data. They know who their fans are. They have access to their fans. Do you? Spotify's not telling you who your fans are. Apple Music ain't telling you who your fans are. But our friends over at DistroKid created a feature called Hyperfollow. Every single release, you can set up a pre-save campaign with a hyperfollow and get access to every single fan's email address. Now you can let them know when you have a show coming up, when you're dropping exclusive merch, when you're going live. And without the data, you're just bound by the algorithms of TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. No more relying on those platforms. We're going straight to our fans. DistroKid is the best DIY distributor. You can upload unlimited music for a ridiculously low rate. And you're gonna have access to features like Hyperfollow. OMTdistro.com, you're gonna get 30% off when you sign up for DistroKid, and you can start collecting your fans' data today. Henry, let's get back into it.
I'm gonna go from least important or most unlikely to the most likely. Okay. So the most unlikely is that you actually know the music supervisor and they just so happen to have a project that they're working on that they need your music for, and you don't have any melodic loops or anything like that in it, or uncleared samples so that you can use it. Okay. That's the first way. That's like very nil of a chance to do that unless you're really tight with them and like actually have music that works for it.
Yeah, like, I went to high school with Henry.
Yeah. I got his I think this is his email still. It's his college email, but I don't know.
You still make music? Like,
Yeah, I messaged him on Facebook. He just so happened, I need this track for the intro to Game of Thrones. Got anything? Oh, yeah, I got the perfect song for that.
I just so happened to make something yesterday. Yeah,
Okay.
never happened.
Yeah, okay. So that's the most unlikely.
Most unlikely, but it still does happen.
Sure.
Like, for weird, odd reasons. But
it's who you know.
Like the second way is through, let's say, a music supervisor, because they don't know anyone. And this is probably the most likely. So what happens is, like, let's say Nike needs music for their next commercial, and so what they do is they don't actually pick the music themselves. They hire an ad firm to like figure out how to do the film production, all that kind of stuff. They might need to be permits if they're doing something outside. And so after the film has been shot, it goes back up to Nike, they approve it, and then they go hire a music supervisor to go, hey, this is the vibe we're looking for. Can you find it? And so if you don't know them from high school, what happens is they go to either a sync agent or a music library. Okay. And this is the music that we give our music to. Basically, these are the people that we give our music to. And basically they vet to make sure that A, it's built for sync, and B, it's of highest quality. So like now I don't have to worry about like pitching my stuff to music supervisors. All I have to do is stay in my bedroom and make as much music as possible. You see what I'm saying? So they're basically pitching it for me on my behalf. And if the music supervisor likes it, they throw it on the picture, and if it works, great. They send it to Nike. They like it. Congratulations, you got a placement. As long as, again, you own 100% of the master and the publishing. Does that make sense?
Will these agents work with anyone, or they just work with you because you're Sam?
Yeah, they work with anybody. As long as you have good music, like it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Normally what happens,
they take a cut, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Normally the cut, and I'll be honest, like the cut sometimes can be anywhere between 20 to 40% of the upfront fees only.
If they ain't cheap, bro.
It's not, but like half of zero is zero, bro.
Oh, he brought it back.
If you're gonna go hunt,
he brought it back.
You're gonna go hunt and get this stuff yourself. I'm gonna have like four times more songs than you.
Yeah.
To get placed because like I don't have to worry about it.
No, I mean, you literally can be just making the next song. Like while they're going and doing the work, you can just be working on the next one.
Yep.
On to the next one.
Yeah.
Exactly. So essentially what I like to try to do is that method, because now I'm making relationships with these kinds of people. And so this is the real cheat code. So when they get the song placed, because normally the reason why the music supervisors are going to these agents is because when they went to the labels, like let's say they wanted to have Cardi B on the commercial, like she gonna charge you at least a couple $100,000. If their budget doesn't have it for that, maybe it's not a Super Bowl ad, then they're gonna have to find something that sounds like a Cardi B, and that's where they come to us because we can make that kind of stuff for a lot cheaper. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So again, when you go to the music supervisors, to the sync agents where our music is in their catalog, they'll pick it out, and if they like it, then placement.
Okay.
And
how can our audience find sync agents to work with?
Sync agents are normally I'll probably get shot for saying this, but they're terrible at SEO on their websites sometimes. And so like it takes a lot of time to try to find them on Google. So there's also a difference between a sync agent and a library, and I want to just make the difference real quick. A sync library to a sync agency is like a Walmart versus like a boutique Givenchy store. And what I mean by that is like a library will have a larger catalog of more options. Like, because if you go to Walmart, if you need a shirt or if you need like gardening oil or whatever, like it's there. You know what I'm saying? Versus like if you go to like Givenchy, like you might not have a backpack. Maybe they only have shoes, purses, and I don't know, a t-shirt. Like that's just what they got, but it's really high quality, and that's if you go there, that's what you're gonna get. And so like that's the difference between the two. Normally a sync agency works with a lot more artists than just people that make instrumental music like myself. So normally what I'll try to do is I'll partner with an artist, make an artist duo, and then apply for those kinds of things. Because normally if you have vocals on a sync track, it will normally add another zero to the price because they're paying for the lyric now because it's helping tell a story.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So like you watch TV shows like Love is Blind and like they're literally repeating what they're thinking, kind of like that's where they get the.
Is there an advantage to maybe writing like generic like lyrics that someone might say on Love is Blind?
That's a good question. So generic is the wrong word I would use.
Okay.
I would use universal because if you think of every hit known to man, right? Like they're all simple, repetitive lyrics. I always use Beyonce because like she's really good at it, right? Like a 5-year-old could sing that song and an 85-year-old can too. And because it's so relatable, that's why it spreads like wildfire when it gets on radio and whatever, right? So like another pro tip, and we talked about this yesterday, we had a sync agent come into our private community. She was like, if your music can actually be understood by people that don't understand English, That's another win, because like now you get those those global fees when they like, this commercial was really great. Let's run it in Tokyo or I don't know, Korea or whatever. And like people can still like understand and relate to it because it's like, it's a vibe.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, so so you touched on obviously the unlikely scenario that our next door neighbor is a music supervisor who needs a song. You talked about obviously submitting our music to both, sync agents as well as music libraries that house catalogs of music. Is there another way that music supervisors get their hands on tracks, or are those kind of like the
the other way?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was 3 ways. I remember it now.
Yep, I'm bringing us back. Go ahead. What?
Yeah. The streets be watching. They find it on Spotify, or like you actually like make content, and so it got some type of push there. I've seen artists get pulled for projects like that just because of them running into each other on an algorithm. So that's the other way to do it. I find those to be the least likely, but it's also a way to do it just by chance. And actually, that was one of the ways so one of my goals for this upcoming year is to try to find some way to get any of my music involved in Sony's Into the Spider-Verse franchise. So whether that be a trailer, promo for, I don't know, a t-shirt or something, like I want some of my music in it because I think the franchise is great. And so like one of the things I did was I did like a diary series on Instagram, and I was just like day 34 of like trying to get my music in the Spider-Verse. And like because like I was saying, the streets be watching, one of the people that actually got music into, I think the first film on the trailer side of stuff, they reached out and was like, hey, this actually could work. Like they signed me to a deal because that was they just found it on the algorithm. You see what I'm saying? So like it does happen. I wouldn't say it happens very often, but like I would try to branch out and do as much as you can because it's going to multiply the opportunities for your music.
And artists should just be making content for their music anyway. So it's just kind of another bonus thing that can happen if you're. Yeah, we are.
But what's so great about Sync, and which is why I am excited to like have this conversation today, is that you don't necessarily have to even be
popping
an artist. You literally can be someone who does enjoy making music. And like, yes, this is a business side of it, but like, you don't have to be this forward facing brand, right? Like every song that comes up on a TV show, like unless it is one of those like fresh tracks that the, supervisor wanted everyone to know, we don't know who the fuck the artist is that made it, or like the producer
what's
is that made
TV
it.
Show?
I mean, shit, recently? I mean, let's just go with Breaking Bad.
Be recent.
Let's just go Breaking Bad. Let's just go Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad? Okay, yeah. Like, do you know the composer?
No idea.
Not at all.
No, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Or that, like, I always use the
guitar
of like, or The Office, the piano theme. Like everyone knows that theme, but like, do you actually know who wrote it? No.
But that guy's loaded.
Does it matter? He's living on a boat somewhere, bro.
Yes.
Like it's been syndicated so many different times. Like that's honestly one of the biggest placements that you could possibly get is if you get a theme song and that show just keeps running. You know what I'm saying?
That's the dream, bro. That has to be.
Is it always a thing where you kind of get a percentage of back end based on the performance of the show?
Perfect segue. Let's talk about the financials of Sync. Like how are these contracts and agreements structured? That's a great. I was actually wanting to make sure we got there.
Alley-ooped you there.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what our audience definitely wants to know. Like, how do we get to the fucking bag? And what are the different ways that these deals are structured?
So normally one of my good friends that's in the business, I asked a lot of questions when I first got in. Also, another way to just loop back, the other way you can find libraries outside of Google or like their social medias is LinkedIn. There's a lot of great information on LinkedIn. You just type in like music libraries or sync agents and all of the people that work there are there. And then you can go to the links and do a bunch of deep research. But to circle back to what we were talking about as far as financials, someone that gave me a lot of help explained to me that 4 figures is the minimum and should stay there. That's industry standard. If they're using your music for 3 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, like you need to get at least $1,000 for it because you're licensing your intellectual property, and intellectual property is expensive. And so essentially, like we were mentioning before, there's 2 payments that normally happen. There's the upfront fees and then the back end royalties. If your music is not being broadcast then you're normally not going to get those back end royalties. So normally the upfront fees are normally a lot bigger. Something else that you have to kind of think about as far as with what determines the price is there's a lot of different factors. There's like, where's it going to be? What media platform? Is it worldwide? Is it only in a locale, like maybe a county, or is it only in a specific number of states? There's other things like budget that they actually have to pay for that specific ad, TV show, or whatever, and things of that nature. So all those things get calculated, and then they give it to the supervisor, and now they have basically a budget where they have to go out and shop and see what music they either have in their catalog or who has in library or agency. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the upfront fee, is that like recoupable like a fucking record label advance, or is that just like that's yours? That's yours.
Fuck. And normally, like we mentioned before, it's split between your agent or library and you.
Sure. But still, it's better than like recouping 20% on the dollar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you still own the music at the end of the day, which is my favorite part about the whole process. Because let's say my term or my deal with that library or agency is over with, I can take my music out. Maybe they didn't give me as many placements as I'd like, so I could take my music out after like 2-year term and then give it to another agency that maybe is popping with my music at that.
Is that because a lot of these agreements with libraries are exclusive? You typically have to go with one at a time?
They're moving more towards exclusive. So exclusive versus, there's 3 different types of deals with libraries and agencies. There's exclusive, which means that only they can pitch it. Non-exclusive means that like I can give it to this library, I can give it to this agency, I can give it to like a multiple different ones, and all have them like try to get it synced. Normally, because it's a non-exclusive deal, the payouts are a little bit lower. Okay. Because it's not, you can get it. If I can't find it here, like I'm gonna go to another store and find it somewhere else, right? Whereas if it's exclusive, like you can only find it here, which raises the price. And then there's buyout deals, which basically mean I'm purchasing this music for ownership. And normally what I recommend, if people like, those deals aren't necessarily terrible, but I normally recommend that if you're going to do a buyout deal, like I had a buyout deal one time for a Ford commercial, and it was for I say the most, try to make sure you get as much money as you can for that, because that music's not yours anymore. So normally I recommend like 5 figs at least, for something like that, because you can't monetize anymore.
Hey, buy this shit, my guy. It's all yours, buddy. I'll make another one.
I'm like,
that's a big tip too, bro. Like you cannot be married to your music, because like, I suffered from that for a really cool project that me and a buddy put out, just because
you thought something was the one
coolest stuff that I've ever made. Yeah, like it's got to go in a Super Bowl or bust. And like that was the wrong way to think about it, because like it stayed in my my hard drive collecting dust for a year, just because I was like, no, I don't want to give it to this person, because like I don't know if they have the right contacts or not. Like just put it out, make more.
Yeah, it's huge.
Damn.
I think that goes for artists putting out music in general too. It's like,
I'm gonna hold this one until
this is the single. It's like, well, the audience, your fans like this one more, so maybe that's your single. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy, because like I think a lot of artists they're in their own heads when it comes to the music, because I mean it takes a lot of like intellectual like work to get this stuff out. You want to make it perfect and all that kind of stuff, and that's totally fine. But like I guarantee you, your 10th track is going to sound better than your first, because we don't get worse by making more music. It's virtually impossible. So
obviously, I know you have a community of students, right? I'm curious. I feel like, is your personal favorite success story of yours the Taco Bell, like just the first one, or do you have something that you're like super proud of that's happened since?
Personally, my favorite placement is going to be either my first or my next one, just because like I love the grind and the journey of like making more music. And if it doesn't work here, I know it's going to work somewhere else down the line. You know what I'm saying? So like after the first one, like the excitement is not like the same, just because the buildup of how much time it took to finally get there. And then afterwards, like, okay, I understand the formula. But there was a really cool, and again, like, sync takes time. This is not a get rich quick thing at all, because there was, and this is one of my favorite stories. One of the homies in our community, he really wanted to get his music on 2K, and just because he makes music that sounds like it should be on 2K, very high energy hip hop, always a vibe, and sports, like energy heavy. And so what he did his research or whatever, found a library that actually got music on that video game before. So it's like, okay, it's highly likely that if I send my music here and I know it's built for 2K because I've done my research, I've listened to their soundtracks or whatever, I know this fits, right? I send it over to them. It's more than likely going to get a placement. And so they accepted his music and then sent him the deal. And he was like, this deal kind of looks funny versus like what you've shown us in the past. Because one of the clauses was for perpetuity. And so if a library ever asks for either perpetuity or writer share on your music, normally I tell people run away because like they did not help you make the music. So why are they getting a cut of it? That's not fair. And then perpetuity is just like, if you don't make a placement, like I should take that music back and give it to somebody that will. So I don't like that at all. So I normally tell people to run. But anyways, what happened was it was a weird contract or whatever. And we were just like, this kind of messed up. But like one of the people that we had come into, so we have like music supervisors that like have done stuff with Marvel, sync agents, library owners. We have them come into our community to listen to our stuff so that we know straight from the horse's mouth that this works or not. Because if not, then like normally they don't give us feedback if they don't like our music. They just, no thanks, this is not what we're looking for right now. So like this helps everybody level up. And one of the guys that we interviewed actually but he works for that library. Like he gives them music all the time. And so we just got on a Zoom call together and was just like, hey, remember us? He was like, yeah, what's up? And so we were just talking about the contract. And he was like, oh yeah. The reason they do that is this, that, and the other. And it made sense to us. So it was like, oh, okay. So like, do we send them this music and not be married to it, or do we hold on to it because this deal looks weird? And so eventually the artist was like, you know what, I'll make more. Like just take this and we'll see what happens. A year goes by and he finds his music in 2K, and he not just one placement but two. In the same game at different times. So we got paid twice for doing that, which I think is just super cool. And it'll probably get, when it circles back around again, just because I know the production quality and the lyrics are really great, it's probably going to happen again. So like sometimes it's better to do that kind of stuff. But the interesting thing was it took him like 2 years to do it. So like he grinded and made a lot of music, and that just one opportunity made his first placement, that's very rare to like, okay, I want to get my music into this, and it actually happens. Normally it's just somewhere else. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, I thought that was really cool.
Hey, sorry to butt in, but you're an independent artist, right? You have great music that you want the world to hear, right? You know that organic social media posting is the best free way to get exposure and market your music, right? Most artists understand this, but they get paralyzed because they don't know what types of videos to make. What do I post? Luckily for you, the One More Time podcast has gathered a list of 100 viral content ideas specifically for musicians that we're giving to you for absolutely free. We've seen these formats crush time and time again. They really work. Take these ideas, insert your personality, your music, and watch the views start rolling in. All you got to do is go to 100viralcontentideas.com and you can have the entire collection in your inbox in minutes. So sorry for the interruption. Please forgive me. Let's get right back into it.
So what are some of the biggest mistakes that people who are trying to break into sync make?
The biggest, I'll give you three of them.
Okay.
Biggest mistake, first one is giving up, because most people, they try sync and don't see any results within 90 days, and they normally just quit because they're like, oh, this isn't working for me.
What's like the maximum that like, if someone's been doing it for this long, maybe give up? If you've
been doing it for 2 years, I would say you need to seek help. Just because honestly, it's either the music, you have terrible communication skills, or like you don't follow instructions, which is the second thing. Like if a supervisor asks you, hey, I need a track that's 30 seconds long, it needs to be hip hop, and I need it to have this instrument in it, and you don't follow all three of those directions, like they're not going to pick it. And they'll probably be like, this person obviously doesn't understand English. Like I'm not going to ever ask them anything ever again. Like, is that quick, bro? Like, and you'd be surprised how many people are just like, they want to be artistic or whatever, and they ignore the instructions. And so like those kinds of things are like terrible to do. The last thing is, and I guarantee you, and I've asked this question to our special guests that come into the community, what's the biggest pet peeve of you as a music supervisor or a sync agent or library? And it's always sending MP3 attachments. Like their servers don't have enough space for it at all. And so like if they even look like there's an attachment on here, whether it be a picture or whatever, they straight to the trash. They don't even listen to it. Yeah. And so what I do, and I think this is like the best thing to do, is I'll use a streaming link from a company called Realcrafter, because what they do essentially is it's kind of like a press kit or an EPK for musicians, but it's kind of built more towards sync, specifically if you're a composer or like a video game composer, because like now it shows you, it gives you data on like what they're listening to as far as like what piece of the track is like the most clicked. Like it's almost like SoundCloud.
Almost SoundCloud-esque, yeah.
It's pertaining to you and with sync. So like you can upload videos and have your music behind it, and all your information's there, and it's just like a one-stop thing so that they can kind of check out, okay, this music not only sounds good but looks cool because it's branded the right way. You know what I'm saying? And so like that makes you look super professional, and like
this guy's obviously something like he's producing music for sync. So yeah, I'm going to take him maybe a little bit more
music for brands,
seriously.
Fans.
Yeah.
So what other information goes into, right, like the submission? Because obviously it's the music file, right? For them, I mean, well, in this case, it's not an MP3, but it's like the music. But aren't there
Tempo
like other
and key?
Yeah, exactly. What other kind of like metadata type of information should people be including?
Yeah, metadata is like super important, because if you give a music supervisor or a library your song, if they can't remember the name and they can't remember your name, how are they going to find it? And that's what metadata is for. So tempo, instruments, genre, related sounding artists. You could put in that's like lower on the tier. That's second tier. First tier, you need to make sure you put your information, your PRO, and then if it's one stop, which is like a golden word. I made some content on it the other day, but like essentially, if your music is one stop, that means that the supervisor only has to come and contact one person to get permission to use it. Because let's say you have a band, and this actually happened low key. So I was in Los Angeles at a sync event, and this guy was telling me they had a band, and everybody, because that's how you do it, especially in like Nashville, like everybody owns equal percentage of a song if they recorded it, right? And so what happened, they had an opportunity for a sync license, and it was like for $20,000 or something like that, and the supervisor had to call each one of them because they owned a portion of it, and they didn't say it was one stop, meaning all they had to do was come to the singer and be like, can we use this? And they say, yeah. So because they didn't say one stop, essentially what happened was they had to call each person of the band, and the bass player's phone was like off, or he was in he was unreachable. And so because it was a last minute thing, because most, especially in television, like they do stuff like I need it yesterday. And so what happened is they lost the placement, and probably it was on a really popular TV show too. So like it would have boosted their streams. A lot of artists like Lizzo and Aloe Black, there's a lot of artists that like got their start because they were put in front of an audience of millions of people, got paid for it, and then everybody's like, oh, this is dope, Shazam, right? And then all of a sudden now they're getting more opportunities and stuff because they just douse their song with lighter fluid.
It's always the bass player.
Dude, it's always the fucking bass player, bro.
So like you have in your metadata, you have to make sure that you have like, say that it's one stop, and then make sure it's written in an agreement as far as your split sheets are concerned.
And that looks more attractive to the supervisors. Yeah.
One stop.
Sure.
Because it's less worry for them, because all they got to do is contact one person instead of 5.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And the advantage of that is that most indie artists can do that. When it comes to the labels, normally there's like 18 people on one song, right? As far as songwriters and stuff are concerned. And so like it becomes a big hassle to try to clear a song. Especially if it's super popular and like there's a lot of people on it. Like Kanye is known for like putting everybody. If the janitor was in the room, he's getting a cut, right? So like it becomes really hard to sync that kind of stuff.
No, I mean, and that's why I thought, most of our community is indie artists and producers, et cetera, like not signed to a label, not signed to a publisher. So I feel like that's why I thought sync was so important, bro, because it was like you can just do this shit on your own without having to go get approvals and, have someone else route it through legal and this, that. Like, no, you can fucking decide on your own. That's huge, man. That's huge. What's the most like bizarre placement that you or someone in your community has gotten? Like just like the weird, it's just like the weirdest, like, I don't know. You mentioned like the educational video for the college. That one seemed kind of like, I
got one, but it's probably like, it's probably too crazy.
Let's go.
Like a tampon company reached out or what?
I was thinking like a.
Say it was a really explicit. I found that made jingle. A very explicit let's just say he made a really well-known track for very explicit content, and was trying to figure out, because it was technically it's a sync placement, but because like he didn't know what he was doing, he got very underpaid for it, and so because of that, like it's just like I can show you to a lawyer, but like this is terrible. You know what I mean? So
wait, is it the jingle?
Yeah.
Seriously?
I actually he emailed me and was just because like by this time I was already doing a lot of education stuff, and he's just like, bro, like I didn't get a lot of money for this track. Like somebody needs to fix this.
Damn.
And so like, wait. There's a lot of rigmarole behind it.
It's actually the jingle.
Yeah.
The like boom, boom,
yeah. So like essentially,
he's like, sure. I don't know. I've never heard it, but
right. Yeah.
Wow.
Wait.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's insane.
Damn.
That's insane.
He didn't know. He should have had this episode to refer to.
Literally.
But it wasn't made yet.
So what's the future of sync, do you think, right? Like with all this new AI and technology going at a crazy pace, like where do you see, sync going in the future?
I see when it comes to AI, there's a lot of companies that like are shying away from it because no one owns the copyright to it outside of those companies. So like, because you can't technically, according to the Library of Congress at this moment in time, you cannot copyright something that was made completely by a generative program. Like that's not going to be like a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just use completely AI generated stuff to sync on your own. But also a lot of supervisors are old school. Like they rather have like new pop in music. And a lot of the times when it comes to AI generated stuff, you have to feed it information. And indie creators make new stuff that doesn't fit the mold all the time, and it becomes popular, right? Like sped up versions. Like who would have saw that coming, right? So like, because yeah, exactly. So like because of that, it's always going to be a step up behind. So like I genuinely think that indie creators are just going to continue to run the market when it comes to sync licensing, just because it's so easy for us to create stuff. On top of that, I strongly think, and I was just looking at some stuff from Luminate and Splice. They always, at the beginning of the year, they put out like what's most popular. Yeah. And so when it comes to genres, I normally like check out that kind of stuff and find out what's trending. And Afrobeat stuff, Amapiano still, like world music's still really popular. Country music, pop music, and orchestral music is still like top 5 genres normally that most people, and soul music, because it's used like all the time and people relate to it. Those are the biggest genres that normally work with sync, and they're continuously like steamrolling everything else. So like when it comes to the future of sync outside of that, I would definitely think of new media platforms. Like at first, like maybe 2-3 years ago, we thought that the metaverse was going to take off, right? And so like that's video content the whole time you're like putting on the goggles. So like that's a revenue stream.
Yeah, there's obviously going to be music playing. Yeah, you're not just going to be. Yeah,
this is people just walking around.
Yeah, it's not going to be silent while you're just walking around, right?
Yeah, that's a placement.
Yeah.
So like more, I'd be looking on the horizon for like more media platforms like esports, like I was mentioning before. That's always picking up steam. And let me think. The other one was just virtual reality and interactive stuff like that.
So you mentioned, kind of like metaverse and stuff. Like, what's microsync? I feel like I've heard microsync. Yeah.
So microsync is essentially for podcasters like yourself or YouTubers that might not have a whole film production studio budget for larger known songs and things of that nature. So like you have companies like Artlist, Epidemic Music, and there's a couple other ones like Pond 5 that will basically act as music libraries at a cheaper rate. And normally that's how I first got started, and I was like, this is not enough. Like I'm spending hours on tracks and getting $35 a track for license usage, and sometimes it's just not enough. And so like it's good to get started to kind of understand how the market works, but unless you have like a deal with certain libraries where they pay you more, like for instance, I know there's a company called That Pitch where like they basically have buyout deals for a lot of your music, and they've grown over the years. Now they're offering like non-exclusive deals and stuff like that. But it goes to YouTubers, and sometimes other film production studios will pick it up. They'll pay a little bit less on the front end, like anywhere between like $200 to $750. But on the back end royalties, like I still get royalties from when I first got started with Sync, and like TV shows will use the same music over and over again because it's just like they don't care. They're putting it out on syndication, and like those back end royalty checks will go anywhere between a couple cents to like the largest I've ever seen is like $8,000, and it's just like passive income based off of something I did years ago. So if you think about doing that over and over, so micro sync essentially, if you want to be really successful at it, you have to make a lot of music.
So if
because it adds up.
So if TikTokers are using my song, is that sync?
Yep.
And how do you get paid from that? I feel like that's like I feel like no one knows how that actually happens.
It depends. So like if your music is going through a distributor like TikTok, they have their own like sound on or something like that, right? That's a way to do it. But there's also music libraries that give a section of their music not away, but they give it to TikTok to put in their own personal commercial music library to use. And when companies use that, because businesses, like if you're making user generated content, normally because it's on that social media platform, the rate is a lot lower. But if you're a business, like you're paying for it essentially through TikTok. And so what happens is TikTok pays it's called a blanket license. And basically they pay a lump sum to a library to use whatever music they want out of this pot that they give them. And then whatever they use, they split it across everybody that's got music in that pot.
Okay. All right.
That makes sense.
That's the 30 seconds to a minute that you would see if you click a sound on TikTok. That's the section that they've been allocated.
Yep.
Okay.
And record labels have those kinds of deals with social media platforms all the time.
Cool.
Well,
yeah, I didn't know that.
Sam, xJ-Will, J-Will,
Josh.
We've entered a final segment of the podcast. Yeah, man. God, so much fucking game, bro.
I know. I really hope that a lot of people will go out there and start like pursuing this.
I know you always try and get our community to like rewatch our episodes just on some like try and get our views up type shit.
Take the value. I know they're not getting all the value.
No, but like this one, like you have to watch back. Like even I was like, wait, what did he say again? Like, like 10 minutes in, you know what I mean? This one is a notepad heavy episode.
Get your notepads out.
For sure.
But now we start the fun section. This is the rapid fire rampage.
Okay.
I'm going to break it into 3 sections. I'll explain them as we go along. First part is just some simple short answers. Let's get into it. Starting with, give us your best just like short elevator pitch on why you think artists should be taking sync placement seriously.
Making music for brands, not fans, is probably the smartest thing to do because fans don't pay as much for music because it's devalued, and that's just because I'm an old man. But like also the fact that like the fans will come later. Like if your music's exposed to a bunch of people and you're actually getting paid for it, why wouldn't you do it? It's the best way to actually get paid for your art.
I'm convinced.
Sold. I'm making a sync hit tonight.
Right?
Moving on. Trump has just appointed you to a brand new position of music industry czar. What is your first order of business?
My first order of business is to try to find a way to make sure that AI music doesn't take away other people's jobs, because making music is actually fun, contrary to belief that's come out in the last couple weeks. Yeah.
We need some regulation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotta have it.
Gotta have it. Moving on. What emoji best represents you and why?
Ooh. What's the one I always use? The
Uncle Sam?
the smoke, the steam.
Oh yeah, with
I
the
love
note
using that
coming out
one
the
for when I
nostrils.
Yeah.
Because it's
It's just like it's a grind emoji to me, and that's what I'm all about.
love that. What is actually? You kind of covered this. Let's just go into this one. You must choose a song to play anytime you walk into a room. What song are we going with?
Ooh. Danger by Blackway.
Ooh.
What's up, Danger?
Because he's dangerous.
I thought he was going Danger by Mystical.
Hey, maybe as a
much better, bro.
Maybe as a backup.
That's now that I'm going to answer that question with Danger by Mystical.
Who's going to ask you that question?
I mean, if I ever get on the One More Time podcast, bro.
Okay, fair. Last one with a short answer. What is your favorite curse word?
Ooh, I don't swear.
Aw,
Can you say like the letter that it might start with if you had one?
I don't
Just
do
move
it.
on, Henry.
He's like, no, do it.
God, such a bad influence, bro. The guy doesn't swear.
You could track me too. Like if you listen back, like I never.
No, we believe it.
I knew that before I asked this. I was like, he's probably going to say he doesn't even do it.
Yeah, we've had a couple
Branding.
like you on here, Sam.
A couple of you.
We've had a couple of yous on the pod.
For sure. Anyway.
Henry really gets disappointed during this episode.
It's like,
I can tell. He was
left like wanting more. Anyway,
another one.
moving on to the second part. This is the this or that. I'm going to give you two choices. You just pick one of them.
Okay.
Starting with drums or melodies?
Melody.
Drums or flats?
Melody. Or wait, flats?
We moved to chicken wings
Drums.
without you noticing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
He was thinking flat notes, bro. He's a trumpet player, man.
Sharps or flats?
Yeah, exactly.
Flats.
Okay. Discover new artists or binge your favorites?
Ooh, discover new.
Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network?
Cartoon Network. Gotta go with Cartoon Network.
Wrong answer. Anyway. TV sink or movie sink?
Movie sink.
Kitchen sink or bathroom sink?
Kitchen.
AI generated insights or human creativity?
Ooh. I'm gonna go with AI generated insights. Because you know what?
Says the guy who doesn't want AI to take over.
I want to
Welcome
use it
AI
as a tool.
mostly. Yeah.
I want to use it as a tool. I think it speeds up productivity so much. Like for instance, and I meant to mention this earlier. Like,
Go ahead.
when you're like for instance, I had a brief for like a Beastie Boys track, and I'm like, I want when I record vocals to sound exactly like it. So I just type into AI, like, how do I record? So like what did they use? And it gives me exactly what gear and everything because of how I train it. And so like now I have a track that has vocals that sound like Beastie Boys.
Tells you,
know
like what preamp, what compressor, how to EQ
yeah, bro,
it.
you can
like,
ask it all that kind of stuff, and
What?
it just levels up your production.
wow.
What company is that? What
Just
company
open
did you
AI,
use?
just the ChatGPT.
That ChatGPT can spit that back? Oh, fuck,
Bro,
man.
like me and a lawyer actually like wrote a
not
whole
DeepSeek.
book of like prompts, like where you could just ask it this kind of stuff and it spits it back out. And you can also tell it what gear you have. And it's like, I've had like presets made from AI just based off of like, hey, I have the Analog Lab series. Which one would work best for this kind of style song? You got to ask the right questions. If I ever come back, we got to do something on that because like that's
just
a cheat
prompts.
code.
Just prompts.
Yeah.
Prompt
Prompts
engineering
and
is
how to,
the new job.
For sure.
We
No.
should all be getting.
No, we honestly should. I think I shared something to our story recently that some other platform shared. I think it was you do at 24/7 Artists. Shout out to them. They posted something about like 7 ChatGPT prompts that every independent artist should be using, and they were awesome, right? Like, and so I think we definitely need like a episode on just prompts that musicians
Seriously.
can be using. But
Thanks.
just real quick, I know this is rapid, but
It's not anymore.
But I know we didn't touch on this. How do I even get to the point where I'm getting briefs?
Oh, you have to be signed to a not a supervisor, a label, or not a label. I'm sorry, a sync rep. So a library or an agent.
Okay,
if
so
you're not
those-
signed with one of them,
Yeah.
they're the ones that get the instructions.
Okay.
Unless
sure.
you again have a supervisor that lives next door.
Okay, well, yeah, and we already
I
crossed
also
that one.
went to high school.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool. I just wanted because I always heard the term brief, and like that's basically the description of what someone's
Those
looking
go
for.
to the supervisor.
Those go to those either the library
They
or
come
the
from the supervisors
yeah.
and they give them to the library owners and
Yeah.
then they give them to us.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Sure. So, just like
Just a few more of the this or that. Starting with strawberries or blueberries.
Ooh, blueberries.
TikTok or YouTube.
YouTube.
And finally, become a full-time rapper or leave the music industry forever.
Ooh. I'd leave.
I didn't think he was going that way. He was like, ooh, I'm out.
that was such funny. That was like the best comedic timing you could have asked for. Ollie,
Nope.
Bro, man,
Ollie.
touring, don't get me wrong, like I've toured the world, like it's so much fun, but just like it's bad on the knees. I don't have to.
It's bad on the
being famous
knees.
is just terrible for like work-life balance, in my opinion.
That's-
like I can't go to the grocery store.
Hot take.
That's funny.
Moving
man.
on to the last section. This is the word association. I'm just going to give you one word. Just give me the first
this
word
is
back
cool.
that
I
you
like
think
this.
of. Yeah, this is how we get into your subconscious. You know what I mean? It's
Oh gosh.
going to get real.
I'll leave.
Starting with music,
Art.
spicy,
Expensive.
marketing,
Necessary.
slushy,
Summer?
Money.
Security.
Viral.
Overrated.
Violin.
Suzuki.
Toilet.
Bad music.
Shitty ass music.
Put it all in the toilet.
Put your toilet ass.
Put your violin in the toilet. Chat GPT.
Tool of future.
Coyote.
Jackal.
Cryptocurrency.
Wait, I almost swore.
Oh, shit.
Not necessary.
Podcast.
Relationships.
Lil.
Baby.
Why are you laughing so hard?
Bro, have you seen that? Have you seen that clip of gosh, who is it? T-Pain. He's like, we need no more lulls. Like, stop being low.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought of. I just said T-Pain.
Sync.
Licensing.
What were you going for?
I mean, there was
boring alley-oop.
Sync Alliance.
Oh,
could have been like sync. Could have been like comfort or like income. Like there was a lot of ways it could have gone.
What did you want him to do?
I wanted to see where he went. I didn't have one.
Sync equals freedom in my
freedom is what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
That's what it is.
Man, appreciate you for real, Sam, xJ-Will.
Thank you, Josh. Sam.
AKA.
Yeah.
If y'all didn't learn something about sync, then like please rewind because this shit was
there's nowhere else
full,
to go.
Man.
That's it.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. Until next time, Henry, what are we doing?
Getting out of here.
Peace, y'all.
Bye.